India, a land of diversity and rich history, embarked on a remarkable journey of democracy after gaining independence from British rule on August 15, 1947. One of the pivotal moments in this journey was the first general election of independent India. The first general election held in India was a watershed moment, as it laid the foundation for the world's largest democracy. It was an opportunity for millions of Indians to exercise their right to vote and shape the destiny of their newly independent nation. This election was not only significant for India but also captured the attention of the world. It showcased that a diverse and newly independent country could successfully conduct a free and fair election on such a massive scale. Jawaharlal Nehru wanted the general election to take place in the spring of 1951, and his urgency was understandable. India had waited for over 3 years for this new era of democracy to commence. The Election Commission of India, headed by Sukumar Sen, was responsible for organizing the massive electoral process. The commission had to register millions of voters, set up polling stations, and ensure a fair and transparent election. The electoral process involved several stages, such as voter registration, candidate nominations, campaign rallies, and actual voting. The Election Commission of India faced numerous challenges in organizing the election, such as the vast geographical expanse of the country, limited infrastructure in rural areas, and the need to ensure security and fairness throughout the process. The Commission conducted an extensive voter registration drive, reaching out to millions of eligible voters. This included both men and women, with women's participation being a significant milestone in a society where they had been marginalized for centuries. The first phase in the Great Election was to enumerate the lists of eligible voters to fashion the electoral rolls for the entire country. This was a task of the greatest magnitude, for over 173 million names had to be compiled and entered. This meant reaching remote regions, tribal areas, and diverse communities across the country to include every eligible individual. Enumerators visited households and collected relevant data from individuals to establish their eligibility. This data included personal details such as name, age, gender, address, and other necessary information. Once the verification process was complete, eligible voters' names were entered into the electoral rolls. The electoral process involved the nomination of candidates by political parties, campaigning through rallies and public meetings, and the printing and distribution of ballot papers. India's diverse population posed unique challenges in terms of representation. To address this, the election introduced the concept of reserved constituencies, ensuring representation for scheduled castes, formerly untouchables, and scheduled tribes, who were historically marginalized. The first general election also saw the participation of regional and linguistic parties, which represented the aspirations and interests of specific states or linguistic communities. The first general election witnessed the emergence of several political parties, each with its own ideologies and visions for the nation. The Indian National Congress, led by Jawaharlal Nehru, played a crucial role in the freedom struggle and emerged as a dominant force. Other parties, such as the Communist Party of India and the Hindu Mahasabha, also contested the election. Several mock elections were conducted as a means to familiarize voters and election officials with the voting process and to test the electoral machinery. These mock elections served as practice runs and helped to identify any issues or challenges that needed to be addressed before the actual election. These election rehearsals held at various centers provided an opportunity for voters to get acquainted with the voting process, such as marking the ballot paper, casting their votes, and understanding the functioning of polling booths. They also helped educate voters and familiarized them with the candidates, political parties, and their symbols. Organizing elections on such a large scale, and conducting them in a free, fair, and transparent manner was no easy task. One of the initial challenges was India's vast population, which stood at 360 million at that time. When the constitution was enacted, India embraced universal adult suffrage, making 173 million people above the age of 21 eligible to vote. However, 85% of this eligible population was illiterate. This posed a significant challenge in identifying, naming, and registering voters. To address this, the election introduced the use of symbols to represent political parties, enabling illiterate voters to identify their preferred candidate. Finalizing parliamentary constituencies relied on the census data, which was only available in 1951. Under the 1950 Act, a voter had to be residing in India for a minimum of 180 days and be 21 years of age to vote. However, due to prolonged partition violence, refugees continued to arrive in India post-independence. To include these refugees in the franchise, the Secretariat of the Constituent Assembly decided to register all refugees on the electoral rolls. The Election Commission introduced several innovations, such as the use of multiple ballot boxes in each polling station, with one for each party with its symbol marked, so that voters could simply drop their paper in the designated box. As a result, polling booths across the country were equipped with over 2 million steel ballot boxes, requiring approximately 8,200 tons of steel. Additionally, there were challenges such as designing party symbols, ballot papers, and ballot boxes for the uneducated population. Setting up polling stations strategically, recruiting, and training efficient polling officers were also crucial tasks. The election also faced logistical challenges, such as the transportation of election materials to remote areas, ensuring the security of polling booths, and managing the smooth flow of voters at crowded polling stations. In addition to these challenges, there was a food shortage in many states across India, requiring the administration to focus on relief work. Overcoming all these challenges took time. Despite the challenges faced, the first general election witnessed an impressive turnout. 45.7% of the eligible population walked out of their homes for the first time to exercise their right to vote. The first Indian general election was held from October 25, 1951, to February 21, 1952. The polling for the election was conducted in multiple phases to accommodate the logistical challenges and to ensure that citizens in all regions had an opportunity to vote. The counting of votes took place over several days. The counting began on October 30, 1951, and continued until February 27, 1952. The results of the election were officially announced on February 28, 1952. The Indian National Congress emerged as the largest party, winning 364 out of 489 seats in the Lok Sabha, the House of the People. The election results marked a significant turning point in India's political landscape. Jawaharlal Nehru, a prominent leader of the Indian National Congress and a key figure in the freedom struggle, became the first Prime Minister of independent India. India became the largest democracy in the world, with a government elected by the people and for the people.